Good evening. Our audio-video IT expert is at a graduation of his daughter, so we won't have the usual intro tonight that we have. But before we go further, Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I think we have a presentation of a proclamation from you.
We did.
I'll turn it over to you, sir.
I know Debbie's done a lot of work on this. If you'd like to introduce. Sure.
We have two members of the Homewood Historic Preservation Commission. We have Eddie and Will. Y'all want to come on up and be the recipients of the proclamation in y'all's commission's place?
That's what y'all,
That's
that's what y'all get for starting in the back. How are
you,
you?
sir.
Good. Thank y'all for being here. So, we have a proclamation for National Historic Preservation Month. Whereas the National Historic Preservation Month was created to celebrate events that promote the visitation of historic places, it's also a time to demonstrate the social and economic benefits of historic preservation. Whereas National Historic Preservation Month began as a National Preservation Week in 1975, and by 2005 it was extended to encompass the whole month to provide more opportunity to celebrate the diverse and unique heritage of our country's cities and states. And whereas the city of Homewood has a number of National Register landmarks worth seeing, saving, and celebrating, and whereas historic preservation is an effective tool for managing growth and sustainable development, revitalizing neighborhoods, fostering local pride, and maintaining community character while enhancing livability. And whereas historic preservation is inherently economically, environmentally, and socially sustainable, fostering a culture of reuse and maximizing the life cycle of all resources through conservation. And whereas historic preservation is relevant for communities across the nation, both urban and rural, and for Americans of all ages, all walks of life, and all ethnic backgrounds. And whereas it's important to celebrate the role of history in our lives and the contributions made by dedicated individuals in helping to preserve the tangible aspects of the heritage that has shaped us as a people. And whereas many Homewood residents, groups, and organizations work hard to preserve Homewood's past for future generations, now therefore I, Scott McBrayer, Mayor of the City of Homewood, hereby proclaim the month of May 2019 as National Historic Preservation Month. And on behalf of Homewood, thank you guys and the rest of the people serving for all you do for our city. So thank y'all very much.
Let's pose for a couple of photographs there.
Let's get a picture.
Come on in here.
Come on up. Oh, you got the Zoom in on it.
All right, great.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate y'all. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mayor, thank you. All right, we're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. We apologize to everyone in the room for the late time, but it does seem every year, this time of year, we have this sort of situation. We're going to begin with an invocation. We have Chaplain Brian Jones with our fire department, who's also one of our medics, and he's going to come forward. Please stand with me, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Chaplain, thank you, sir.
Let us bow. Heavenly Father, this evening we'd just like to say thank you for allowing us to be in this place, Lord. Lord, we know that your business is our business. Lord, we pray that you would give us wisdom to do the things that you would have us to do for our citizens. We know that we can't do anything without you, but with you, Lord, we can do everything. Father, we just thank you. In the name of Jesus we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Chaplain, thank you so much, sir. We appreciate it. And I also love the uniform. Roll call, please, ma'am.
Mr. Gwaltney? Here. Mr. Thames? Mr. Higginbotham? Mr. Wolverton? Here. Mr. McCluskey?
Here.
Mr. Jones? Mrs. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Wyatt?
Here.
Mrs. Andress?
Here.
Mr. Wright?
Here.
And President Limbaugh. You
Here.
have 3 absent, but you still got a quorum.
Okay. So we do have a quorum. We thank you for that. The next item of business is the reading of the minutes from May 13th, 2019, and I know that y'all, like I, had a chance to read those. Chair would welcome a motion to dispense with the reading and approve said minutes.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Smith.
Oh,
Yeah, yes.
There is a correction. I gave you an incorrect opinion last week.
oh, correct, that's
About the sign
right.
ordinance for the jacks. Robert's rule, after I've reviewed that, says that you don't count abstentions. There were 2 abstentions, so the vote on that resolution passed by 5-4 based on Robert's rule of interpretation. And that's in the minutes that you are approving.
That's true.
Everyone to be aware of that.
Thank you.
Okay, so-
Also, we did assign that a resolution number.
It's 1970.
Okay. All right, so I would approve the minutes with the amendment for that particular item with the resolution number that was assigned to that.
All right. So we have, again, a motion and a second from Ms. Smith and Mr. Wyatt. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? And that is unanimous. Next item is Board of Vacancies and Appointments. I would point out 2 items. One is we need to make a nomination on the Board of Education, Ward 2. Mr. Wolverton.
Yes, Mr. President, we met last Wednesday evening. We had 4 candidates that submitted, and we enjoyed having them, having that time to interview and talk to them about their vision for the schools. And we did make a selection, so we were going to nominate Jill Kimbrell tonight.
Thank you. So we have a motion from Mr. Wolverton. Do we have a second? Second from Mr. McCluskey. Any further discussion? If there is none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. And if you will let Ms. Salter, not only Ms. Kimbrell know, but also I've always said Kimbrell. Is it Kimbrell or Kimbrell? Okay. And as well as the other 3 individuals who
Yes, sir.
were certainly passionate in their meeting and interview with us. Also tonight, we would like to open the Library Board Ward 4 position. We've already had 1 applicant. We certainly want the opportunity for other applicants to come forward. So we're going to close that one the night or the afternoon of the 2nd meeting of June, which would be the 24th. Okay? All right. I'm looking at the 2 of y'all, Mr. White. Just. I'm so glad we're not videotaping tonight's meeting. Okay. We have our usual off-meeting amendments to the agenda, so get your pens going. This will take a few minutes. All right, we're going to start with 06-0219, request for consideration of an ordinance limiting time frame of hotel stays within the city limits of Homewood, requested by Mr. McCluskey, referred back to committee from council 513 of 19. 040519, request for consideration to work in the city right-of-way, temporarily blocking the sidewalks and parking in front of 2822 18th Street South, requested by Michelle Tully, Tom Powers, Wyatt Pugh, and Greg Cobb with our BEZ department. 50519, request for consideration to work in the city right-of-way to clear bamboo and other overgrowth from unmaintained alley behind Sims Garden at 908 Highland Road, requested by Amy Milan, Sims Garden caretaker, Wyatt Pugh, Greg Cobb. 060519, request for consideration to work in the city right-of-way at 11 Crest Drive, requested by Barry Brooks, Greg Cobb, and BEZ Department. All right, for consent agenda, 070519, Request for consideration to address parking at Soho, requested by Bubba Smith and Greg Cobb, our BEZ Department. 220519, request to acquire a piece of land from the city at 2927 Central Avenue, requested by Peter Jameson, Greg Cobb, in our BEZ Department. 020519, request to authorize the mayor to sign a contract with Motorola for the dispatch center move and reconnection to the radio system, requested by Brandon Broadhead and Chief John Bresnan. 030519, request to amend the fiscal year 1819 E911 budget, again by Brandon Broadhead and Chief Bresnan. 190519, request for consideration of an ordinance levying ad valorem taxes for October 1, 2019, requested by our city attorney and our city clerk. 200519, request for consideration, by the way, if I'm going too fast, y'all let me know. All right, 200519, request for consideration of an ordinance granting an exemption from ad valorem taxes for October 1, 2019, again requested by our city attorney and city clerk. 250419, request for consideration of 18th Street revitalization project, requested by Britt Thames. 230519, request to contract Volkert Engineering for Central Avenue Apple Study, requested by Andy Gwaltney and Britt Thames. And two committee referral items, 360519, request to authorize the mayor to sign the annual maintenance service agreement with Motorola for radio system E911, requested by Chief Bresnan and Lieutenant Broadhead. Did I say that right? Yes. And that's a referral to finance. 370519, request for consideration of landscape tree ordinance coming from Planning Commission. This will be referred to Planning and Development and requested by Mr. Gwaltney. Do you want me to put Mr. Thames' name on that too, or? Sure, okay.
Do you
Mr.
mind
Gwalt-
repeating that one thing you added just there? I didn't have that one.
370519? Yes.
What was it called?
Request for authorization of landscape/tree ordinance
Okay.
coming from Planning Commission. And I think, wait a minute, there might be one other here. The 350519, request for consideration to amend the resolution 1964 for correction of the Volkert contract amount for the city-wide traffic study. Are we adding that one or not?
Well, the only way I know, yes, I would like to add it and let Greg speak to it because somehow that's the only way I know to get a resolution for it. Because the contract that I sent to
Oh,
them.
that's right. That was the one with the contract difference. Okay. So ultimately, that one's going to have to be a referral back to finance.
I'm assuming so, because
Perhaps.
because the contract that we sent them, that the mayor signed, they said was not for enough money, so I assume it's going to have to go back to finance.
This is a little $11,000 difference, Ms. Smith, since you're acting finance chair. So we'll get to that when we get to it, okay? But anyway. Huh?
I said, what's 11,000 of my friends?
I expected you to say that. Did you add, please add Mr. Higginbotham to the,
Did he just get here?
okay, good. All right, yes, he did.
Okay.
Okay, consent agenda. First, we gotta approve the amended agenda. Motion from Mr. McCluskey, second from Ms. Smith. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? And that is approved. All right, we move on to the consent agenda. Get your track shoes on. We're going to run through a lot of this. Chair would welcome a motion and a second for approval of the consent agenda. Motion from Ms. Smith, second from Mr. Wolverton. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? And that is approved. All right, 200419, public hearing set for June 10th, 2019 at 6 p.m. for consideration of possible vacation of alley on 18th Street requested by myself. We will carry this over for a public hearing again set for June 10th. 100519, public hearing set for June 10th at 6 p.m. for consideration of variance to the fence ordinance at 3 Ventura Drive, requested by Chris Tucker, Greg Cobb, BEZ. We're carrying this over till June the 10th. 11:05:19, public hearing set for June 10th at 6 p.m. for consideration of a variance to the driveway ordinance at 416 Devon Drive, requested by David Champion, Greg Cobb, in our BEZ department. We are carrying that over until June the 10th, 2019. 12:05:19, public hearing set for June 10th, 2019 at 6 p.m. for consideration of variance to the sign ordinance at 251 Lakeshore Parkway, Suite 101, Diane Foley, Greg Cobb, BEZ. We will carry that over to the public hearing set for that date. 13:05:19, public hearing set for June 10th at 6 p.m. for consideration of a variance to the sign ordinance at 3500 Independence Drive. Kyle Davis, Greg Cobb, our BEZ department, and that is carried over to that point in time. 14:05:19, public hearing set for June 10th, 2019 at 6 p.m. for consideration of variance to the sign ordinance at 190 West Oxmoor Road, requested by Joe Tunnel, Greg Cobb, BZ, and that is set for June 10th, 2019. Okay. Now, we're,
Mr. President Limbaugh, on 060219, which is the first one you're fixing to start with,
right.
it needs to be, the report needs to be from finance, from special issues, not
I
finance.
thought we were going to set that for a public hearing.
Yes, sir, I was just letting you know. It was-
Okay, did I not add that one? I'm sorry.
You did, it just said finance on what you were looking at. It's actually special issues, I was just letting you know.
Okay,
That
thank
Ms.
you.
Smith would give the report from special issues. Either way, it's Ms. Smith.
All right. I understand what it says. We are referring this back to.
No.
No, it's a public hearing.
Yeah, we're setting the public hearing tonight.
Okay,
yes.
060219, request for consideration of an ordinance limiting time frame of hotel stays within the city limits of Homewood, requested by Mr. McCluskey. We are setting a public hearing for 6/24/19 at 6 p.m. for this particular item, okay? Does that cover it, Ms. Salter?
Yes, sir, that's great.
Thank you. 040519, request for consideration to work in the city right-of-way, temporarily block sidewalk and parking in front of 2822 18th Street South, requested by Michelle Tully, Tom Powers, Wyatt Pugh, and Greg Cobb in our BEZ department. Report from Special Issues, Ms. Smith.
Yes, the committee met right before the meeting tonight and approved, with the work taking place on Sundays, to avoid as much complication as we can. And the motion was made by Mr. Gwaltney and seconded by Ms. Andrus, with all the proper permits required. And that vote was 5-0 to approve that work on Sunday.
All right, so we have a motion from Special Issues. Any other comments or questions? There being none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And that is Resolution 1971. Mr. Kendrick.
Yes, sir.
050519, request for consideration to work in the city right-of-way to clear bamboo and other overgrowth from unmaintained alley behind Sims Garden at 908 Highland Road, requested by Amy Malam, our Sims caretaker, White Pugh, Greg Cobb, and BEZ department. Ms. Smith, report.
Yes, Ms. Sims wants to clear some overgrowth from a unimproved alley behind the Sims property to just allow some traffic to flow through there, mostly children walking home from school. So we, the committee voted 5-0 to approve that, with the motion being made by Mr. Higginbotham and seconded by Mr. Gwaltney.
All right. Any questions or comments about this motion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And that is 1972, and it is approved unanimously. 060519, request for consideration to work in the city right-of-way at 11 Crest Drive, requested by Barry Brooks, Greg Cobb, BEZ Department, Ms. Smith.
Yes, Mr. Brooks came to the committee meeting. He has a wall behind his house. It actually goes from his, about 150 feet behind his house and his neighbor's house. The wall is crumbling and is in need of repair. So he wants permission to work in the in an unimproved alley behind his property. The committee approved that pending all the proper indemnification agreements. The motion was made by Ms. Andrus and seconded by Mr. McCluskey, and the vote was 5-0.
All right, so we have a motion from Special Issues. Do we have anything to discuss? There being nothing, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And that is 1973, and it is approved unanimously. Let's move on here. What? Sure.
1405, it's on the roll for a public hearing. I think there was some question about whether that goes to BZA for that variance or whether it should go to the county council because it's West Homewood District property potentially.
Mr. Kendrick?
It goes to the plan commission based on the ordinance that we currently have.
Okay, so I guess.
That was amended. Originally was a CRDC or something like that. And then the city council amended it to require it to go to the plan commission. It doesn't come to the city council.
Do you know if that part?
So it doesn't come to the city council?
No.
Then
So
why are we having a public hearing?
I don't know.
That's why I was asking.
No. Thank you, Mr. Wolverton.
I'm sorry, where is it?
It's on page 4.
140519.
You asked me 140519?
Yes, ma'am.
140519 is on page 4.
Let's back up.
It's on the old business agenda.
I mean, we were given that request from BEZ to put on the agenda, so it wasn't supposed to go on there. That's my fault, but they were BEZ requested it to go on there, like they do all variances to sign ordinances.
Got us,
I'm
Mr.
confused, I'm sorry. Where are we?
It's the last item on the old
Find it
business
for him.
agenda.
It's top of page 4 for me.
190 West
Yeah.
It's not what I'm looking
Yeah.
at. I don't have.
Mr. Chairman, what my recollection was at least at one time, and we have been nibbling at the edges of this West Homewood district, and we probably need to take a big old bite, but that's a different story. We'll discuss that later. It's on the agenda for committee. I think at one time, sign ordinance from West Homewood district went to BZA, which they did not care for, but that was what was happening.
Correct.
Now, as to whether we changed that or not, I cannot
thought it
say.
was a variance from the zoning requirements. I just now see it.
Yeah, it's page 2 there.
I think it does go to the BZA.
It's 140519.
And what I cannot confirm independently, Mr. Chair, is to whether this property is a contributing property, West Homewood District. I believe it to be. I believe this gentleman has asked for sign ordinance previously that went to BZA. But I can't tell you that with 100% certainty. But it is something we need to look into between now and when we do the public
Yeah,
hearing.
I have the zoning ordinance. Maybe I can answer that question before we get away.
Okay, while he's looking at that, let's move forward. Give him just a minute to do that. But again, thank you, Mr. Wolverton. I appreciate that. Okay, next item is, let me make sure I'm correct here. Y'all got me jumping. All right, 220519, request to acquire a piece of land from the city at 2927 Central Avenue, requested by Peter Jemison, Greg Cobb, BEZ Department, Ms. Smith.
Yeah, there it is. Okay, sorry, it's on the other side. Okay, they came in front of us asking to acquire the right-of-way in a part of their parking lot where they plan to build a wall and do some maintenance to that parking area. We voted 5-0 to allow that work in the right-of-way with the proper identification agreements. Mr. McCluskey made the motion and Mr. Gwaltney seconded it.
All right, so we have the motion from Special Issues. Is there anything else to discuss on this? If not, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That is Resolution 1974, and it is unanimously approved. Ms. Kendrick's going to continue to work on this.
Yeah, I don't have the correct, I don't have the updated ordinance.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. Can we give you some time to do some research? And we certainly want to dot every I and cross every T. And Mr. Higginbotham, if you're correct, we
I don't want to confuse them and send them the wrong place.
that's right. So we'll look at that and perhaps not get an answer tonight, but get an answer as soon as possible, okay? All right, next item, 020519, request to authorize the mayor to sign a contract with Motorola for dispatch center move and reconnection to the radio system, requested by Lieutenant Broadhead and Chief Bresnan. Report from Finance, Ms. Smith.
Yes, Lieutenant Broadhead came to the committee asking for this item to be approved for a 25% payment of a total project price of $585,000 out of the E911 fund. And this is to connect the radio system at the new, for the 911 department at the new public safety facility. Apparently, the construction of the tower, I guess, or the disc, whatever it is, takes a while, takes about 6 months, so they wanted to go ahead and get out in front of that and get the contract signed. So the committee voted to approve signing that contract, and we're going to deal with the money in a second. Mr. Wright made the motion, Mr. Higginbotham seconded, and there were 3 of us there, so it was a vote of 3-0.
All right, thank you. So we have the motion from Finance. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That is Resolution 1975, and that is unanimous. Okay. 030519, request to amend the fiscal year 1819 E911 budget. Again, from Lieutenant Broadhead and Chief Bresnan. Report from Finance, please, ma'am.
Yes, this is the approval to fund the 25% payment that is due on time of, at the time of signing of the contract. That money will be, will come out of the E911 budget fund, and at the tune of about, I think, $150,000. And we voted to approve that budget amendment. Mr. Higginbotham made the motion, and Mr. Wright seconded, and with a vote of 3-0.
All right, so we have a motion from Finance. Do we have any questions or comments on this? If there are none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That is unanimous, and that's Resolution 1976. And I do think it's certainly appropriate to say that there is more than adequate funds in the E911
Yes.
account to cover this.
Yes. Yeah.
Huh? Yes, with well over $1 million, I know, but still, it needs to be said. 190519, request for consideration of an ordinance levying ad valorem taxes for October 1, 2019, requested by our city attorney and our city clerk. Report from Finance, Ms. Smith. Ms. Smith, we're working you overtime tonight.
I'll expect a big bonus this month.
We'll remunerate you well.
This is a annual approval that we have to make every year for our property taxes collection. So the motion was made to approve this by Mr. Higginbotham, seconded by Mr. Wright, and the vote was 3-0.
Thank you. First reading, Mr. Kendrick.
Yes, it was an order to provide for the levy of municipal taxes for the city of Homewood and for the assessment and collection of such taxes. Section 1, the tax year begins October 1, 2019, and continues thereafter until modified by ordinance. Section 2, the basis of the tax year is based on the assessment made on September 30th, 2019 for all municipal taxes. Section 4, municipal taxes are levied as previously levied at 13.0 mills. Is authorized by the latest assessment in 2001. Section 4, the levy for school purposes is identical to that which was passed in May of 22nd, 2001, 14.2 mills. Section 5, levy for municipal buildings, fire hall, swimming pool, parking is levied based on 4.5 mills of assessed value based on September 30, 2019 assessment. Section 6, severability, the provisions of this ordinance are invalid or conflict with any other ordinance. The remaining portions of remaining full force effect. Effective date of the ordinance, Section 7 is October 1, 2019. Section 8 provides for the tax assessor and the tax collector's compensation is provided by law. Section 9 deals with compensation to the probate judge for redemption of property. Section 10 deals with the license commissioner's compensation. Section 11 deals with conflicts. Section 12 states that the effective date of the ordinance is upon its adoption by the city council.
Thank you, Mr. Kendrick. Chair would welcome a motion and a second for unanimous consent.
Second.
Motion from Mr. McCluskey, second from Ms. Smith. Roll call, please.
Mr. Gwaltney? Yes, ma'am. Mr. Higginbotham? Yes. Mr. Wolverton? Yes. Mr. McCluskey? Yes. Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt?
Yes.
Mrs. Andrus?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
And Mr. Limbaugh?
Yes, so this is ordinance 2745. Chair would again welcome a motion and a second for approval. Motion from Mr. Higginbotham, second from Mr. Wright. Roll call.
Mr. Gwaltney? Yes, ma'am. Mr. Higginbotham? Yes. Mr. Wolverton?
Yes.
Mr. McCluskey?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt?
Yes.
Mrs. Andrus?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
And Mr. Limbaugh.
Yes, so 2745 is approved unanimously. We move on to 200519, request for consideration of an ordinance granting an exemption from ad valorem taxes for October 1, 2019, again requested by the city attorney and city clerk. Ms. Smith.
Yes, this is another annual thing that we have to do to get our homestead exemption, and we voted to approve it 3-0 with the motion being made by Mr. Higginbotham, seconded by Mr. Wright.
All right, thank you. First reading.
It's an ordinance to grant an exemption from ad valorem property taxes levied by the city on homesteads for city tax year commencing October 1, 2019, to consent to the granting of exemption from taxes for homesteads for school district purposes, and to provide for the effectiveness of this ordinance upon the occurrence of a certain event, and to provide that this ordinance shall be void upon the occurrence of certain events. Section 1, that under the authority of Section 40-9-19 of the Code of Alabama, the city adopts a homestead exemption of $2,000 in assessed value as provided by the homestead of the property taxes, which you just adopted by ordinance 2745. That exemption is spelled out in the state code.
Sorry.
The next section is that the provisions of this ordinance has to be approved by the Homewood Board of Education as relates to the school tax exemptions. And if for whatever reason they don't approve that, then that portion of the ordinance would be null and void.
All right, thank you, sir. Chair would welcome a motion and a second for unanimous consent. Motion from Mr. McCluskey, second from Ms. Smith. Roll call.
Mr. Gwaltney? Yes, ma'am. Mr. Higginbotham? Yes. Mr. Wolverton? Yes. Mr. McCluskey?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt?
Yes.
Mrs. Andrus?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
And Mr. Limbaugh.
Yes, so this is ordinance 2746, and again, a motion and a second for approval. Motion from Mr. Higginbotham, second from Mr. White. Roll call.
Mr. Gwaltney? Yes, ma'am. Mr. Higginbotham? Yes. Mr. Wolverton? Yes. Mr. McCluskey?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt?
Yes.
Mrs. Andrus?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
And Mr. Limbaugh.
Yes, so 2746 is approved unanimously. All right, next item is 230519, request to contract Volkert Engineering for Central Avenue Apple Study, requested by Mr. Gwaltney and Mr. Thames. Do we have a report from P&D on that?
We can.
Sure.
We met earlier this evening, and Mr. Gwaltney reported back to the committee that Volker will review Central Avenue to Spring Park to look at improvements. It was approved and 3-0 with Ms. Andrus making the motion and Mr. Wolverton seconding, and then also sent to finance for funding.
Right. So what we're going to do is we're going to vote on approval of this study, and then we're going to refer it back to the Finance Committee, okay? So, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? And that is approved. All right. Look forward to getting the report from Finance in the future. Okay, committee referral agenda. Chair would welcome a motion and a second for approval. Motion from Mr. Higginbotham, second from Ms. Smith. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that is approved. Okay, other new business. Let's see. 330519, request to set a public hearing and referral to Special Issues Committee for consideration of a variance to the sign ordinance at 2800 18th Street South, requested by David Brandt, Greg Cobb, BEZ. We will set that public hearing for June 24th, 2019 at 6 p.m. All right. 340519, which is a request for consideration of approval of vouchers for a period of May 13th through May 20th, 2019. Ms. Smith, who looked at those vouchers?
I spoke with Walter this afternoon, and there was some miscommunication. We're actually going to carry that over to the next council meeting.
Well, let me ask you this. In talking with our city clerk, would it be possible for us to approve these vouchers subject to future?
It's going to be a long time not to write checks because we don't have a meeting again until June the 10th. So I didn't know whether maybe y'all, and I don't need to speak on top of Robert, but I was just wondering if y'all could pass them, and then review them after they're written, and then we can make any corrections in the next meeting, because I don't think that we can wait that long until the 10th,
So,
June 10th.
okay, so, that sounds good to me.
Sounds good to me, but one of you folks
I mean,
have
if,
got
like, if you can make a motion to let us print the list of bills, and then we won't file them, and we'll let somebody come review them between now and then. If there was any
Okay,
discrepancies, then
that's
we
a
would have to
great,
either get.
that's a great compromise, yeah.
That was just my suggestion.
What Melody says is what I move for.
Okay. Okay. Motion by Mr. Wright, second by Ms. Smith. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. We still need a resolution, right?
Yes, sir.
What's the last resolution?
76, I think.
So that'd be 77.
Is that what you got?
And Bruce, did we skip 320519, the bid date setting?
We did. Thank you. We'll go back and do that.
Is that 3205?
320519, request to set a bid
I got an
date.
email from.
We don't need to set that
We
one.
probably don't need to because they got a bid.
They got a bid under 15,000, so we're good.
Guess,
on
I
that.
don't know if we needed to drop, that item is going to be referred to finance, they just didn't need to set a bid opening. So it's going to be, it was in the referral to finance as well.
Okay, so can we drop
We
it
don't
here?
really need to drop the item, we just don't need to set the bid opening.
Okay,
It's the
gotcha.
same item number for both.
Okay.
But we do need to, Mr. Limbaugh, we do need to change the description of 320519, if we could, that's under referral, to say, refer to Finance Committee for Homewood Access Control System and amend the 1819 budgets. It's going to have to be amended as well, the budgets, if we can
Okay,
make that part of
everything
the.
Ms. Salter said. That's our new theme. Yeah.
Move to approve.
Motion from Ms. Andrus, second from Mr. Wright. No, I couldn't tell if it was Mr. White or Mr. Wright. I do know your name. Thank you very much. I haven't had that senior moment lately, but it could happen at any moment. People up here. No, thank you. Okay, good. 350519, request for consideration to amend Resolution 1964 for correction of Volkert contract amount for the citywide traffic study, requested by Ms. Salter, Mr. Pugh, BEZ.
Greg Cobb was supposed to be up here, I'm looking for him.
Yeah, he was, and he flaked on us, and I want the records.
I'll tell you
I
everything I
want the
know.
records to show that he flaked on us.
I know, he told
okay?
me he was going to come speak to this, but I'll tell you everything I know about it. We passed Resolution 1964, and there was an exhibit and a contract with it to Volkert, and the mayor signed it, and the Volkert signed it, and I sent it to Clark Bailey, and he sent me back and said, thank you, but that's not the right contract. The amount that we agreed on was $99,860, and this was $82,000. So I've been trying to get that resolved, and I haven't been able to get it resolved, so I didn't know anything else to do but to put it back on the agenda and see if y'all wanted to send it back to finance, or, because what the mayor signed with Resolution 1964 is what Volkert's saying is not the agreed upon price.
Well, that being the case, right, yeah, I know, and so therefore, I think our way of negotiating may be to send this back to finance. What do you think, Ms. Smith?
Yes, I think that would be the likely thing.
Does that require a vote, Mr. Kendrick?
To send it to finance?
Just to,
Unless someone
I'm just
has
going to
an
refer it
objection.
back to
I mean,
finance.
if we need, Andy, is there any,
We had allocated $100,000 as a match. It's expected to come in $100. I don't know where the 82 came from initially. It might have been prior to that traffic calming document piece or some of the additional things
Well,
we had.
Greg had some suggestions on it, what he thought happened, but that's why I thought he was going to be able to.
Somebody
speak on
gave
it.
us that number because we didn't know.
is it an urgent need to, or can we wait until that December 3rd meeting?
It's only waited 3 years.
I know, right? I mean,
What's
I
three
think it's
more-
urgent.
3
That's why I
years,
hated to put
what's
it on there,
3
because
more
Mr.
weeks?
Taines was going to be, it's a miss.
Okay, well then let's do,
Because I've got the budget, we budgeted 20% at 20 grand.
right. So let's do refer it back to finance, just to make sure we have everything
Done.
correct.
Since there are many more of y'all than me, does that, according to my piece of paper, that says we've covered the agenda. Did anyone see anything else that your president may have missed? Good. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just congratulations. Look, the high school's been busy this week, so congratulations to our graduating seniors. They've worked really hard for tonight. I think a Homewood diploma says a lot, not just for us personally, but across the state. We've got an excellent school system, so our students and parents, grandparents, everybody that has contributed to their education should be very, very happy with their success. And whether they're going to continue their education or whether they're going to go straight into the workforce or a combination of both, I think I can say on all of our behalf that we look forward to watching them continue to be successful in all things that they do. And that's going to be our hope and prayer for them as they go through life. And then, I don't know a good segue from that to the pool, but the West Homewood pool, I don't know if any of you had a chance to go over there this past weekend, but the amount of people that were there, the comments that we heard, it was just, it was really nice. And proud that we're able to provide that amenity for our city. A lot of great comments. I think when I left around 4 that afternoon, I think they'd had about 483 people come through already. I don't know what the final number was, but it was a lot of thankful parents and people really excited about the improvements to the West. And I just think overall for our city it's a really good thing. If you drive by there in the evenings, I don't know what it is about the way the sky looks and the people out there at the park and the pool, but it really is just gorgeous. So kudos to y'all for helping do that. You've made a lot of moms and dads really happy. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. I agree. I have, I did a really bad thing the weekend before the pool opened and we dedicated it. I jumped the fence and went in there and walked around, and I'm going to say, I know, I'm taking the fence to the pool. I'm good. I really did. But anyway, the point is, that's probably some of the best $7 million the city's, give or take a little money, that we've ever spent. I concur 100%, Mayor. With that, remember, we are setting, I did jump it. Yes, sir.
On the sign variance, Mr. Wolverton has showed me a map that appears that this property is in the West Homewood District, and we'll set that variance request as required by the ordinance. I just have to review the ordinance.
Okay, review that and.
If it's supposed to be set, we can set it June 24th by us. If it goes back to the BZA, that's what.
Well, we just need to put it on hold until then. No.
It's just a map from the zoning.
Yeah, I understand. I'm.
So I'm not 100%, but I mean, it's marked as one of the properties, so.
We're going to know, and we're not going to go forward erroneously.
Well, I also didn't want to mess it up if we find out for some reason it actually isn't, then Mike and I are wrong about that.
I understand. I will remind you committee chairs that we're setting meetings for June the 3rd. So, Ms. Waltney, are you setting for anyone?
I am not. However, I did want to make a comment. I'm
Sure.
looking at the contract that was sent to us from Volker on 5/6/2019, and it states that the contract fee is $99,860.
Right.
That's the one that, that's the one that Clark sent me, but the one that was attached to the resolution that y'all passed and the one the mayor signed was a different amount. It was the 88,000,
We just didn't use the number.
82,000.
Well, did we sign it before that 5/6?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
That's my understanding, didn't we?
It was signed after the last council meeting we had. That was the exhibit that went with that resolution that said 82,000, the one the mayor signed.
I'm just trying to figure out if there's, it was just just a mix-up in the document that was signed, and if we're really splitting hairs, sending this back to.
That's why I've been trying to get it resolved, but I've not been successful, so I didn't know what else to do but bring it back to y'all to let you amend the resolution for the record so that we could get the 99 contract signed if that's what y'all thought you were voting on.
Mr. Gwaltney, I understand that we want to go forward, but if there is some discrepancy here that we're not able to straighten out tonight, I would respectfully say let's be conservative.
I understand that. I was just making the point that the most recent contract was right. Somehow something slipped up.
Okay, I looked at it too before this meeting, but I still saw two different figures on one documentation, and so, anyway, thank you. Mr. Gwaltney, anything else? Okay. Mr. Higginbotham?
Nothing tonight, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Worthington?
Just want to second what the mayor was saying about the pool. My family enjoyed it on Saturday. I was unfortunately at work, but I'll get there soon enough. And I did get to get in at the ribbon cutting, so.
Without climbing the fence.
With no fence climbing, correct. Mike and I are gonna, looks like the 30th was confirmed. We're gonna have our kind of community meeting, town hall, May 30th at Trinity West Homewood. I believe it's 6:30. And then also we have Street Fest June 1st, which will be before the next council meeting. So anybody that wants to come out and enjoy that, we'll have food vendors and music and all sorts of fun stuff with the backdrop as the mayor described. And then, let's see, I wanted to give a shout out to the traffic department and Randy, who was out there painting a couple new crosswalks today. And even, I would say, went above and beyond in reestablishing some stop lines that seemingly had faded with time. So while they were waiting for paint to dry in one area, they were making sure they used up what they had. So it looks great. And I've had several people in the neighborhood send me messages. So
Good.
Yep.
Mr. McCluskey, Public Safety?
Yes, I think we should probably set P&D for Britt, because we carried over all the old business stuff that was on there tonight, so, yeah. So finance, I'm assuming it's got 5 o'clock, so,
How much, let me ask out of order. Ms. Smith, how much time do you think y'all need? Another half hour?
Finance is going to have just an audit report and a mid-year review supposedly, so it's
45
probably need
minutes.
more time than normal.
Probably 45 minutes then.
Okay.
Some additional items as well.
okay, so we'll do P&D at 5:45. I'll set public safety for 6, and I'm only gonna need 15 minutes. So
P&D, it's at 5:45, public safety is at 6.
6, please, yep. And just all the kids in Homewood, brace, you've only got 3 more days.
That's it.
Mamas, get ready. That's it.
Ms. Smith?
I will set special issues for 6:15, and sadly, because I carried over a lot of things, I think I might need 45 minutes, because I think we might do some solar talk, or maybe some open records talk, so let me go ahead and just say I'm going to go to 7. And I'd like to, in my friend Walter's absence, congratulate his son as well as all the other graduates from Homewood High School this year. It's a great class of kids, and I know this is a really important and fun night for their families. So just prayers and blessings for all of them. And that's it, I think.
Great. Mr. White?
Nothing tonight.
Ms. Andrus?
I want to remind everybody that the Beautification Board is accepting we're going to begin giving out quarterly awards for properties that are especially, they work very hard on their appearance and landscaping, et cetera. And so that information can be found. The Chamber of Commerce has been sending that out. And I just want to remind everybody, we'll be awarding that in June. And also just to say good luck to our grads. And also wanted to thank the Park and Rec in Berkeley. We were at the tennis courts yesterday, and there are new benches out there. And then we stopped by the pool on the way back in over to our side of town, and the pool was just rocking at about 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon. It looked great. So ran into Britt's family there, and it was just, it was really, there's so many people there, but it's so spread out. It's so nice. I mean, it really was just, they were killing it. So congratulations to Berkeley.
I think we're going to
Finally,
need a third.
Mr. Wright.
I think we're going to need a third pool. I'll set. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Just for Ward 5. What do you say?
Mr. Wright, don't lose focus here.
All right, let's focus. We will set Public Works for 7, and it'll just be 15 minutes, I hope.
If not later.
Just a couple items. And, yeah, I just want to echo everyone's congratulations of the graduates. A fun time and a sad time for seeing so many faces and people moving on to their next, exciting challenges in life. It really is remarkable to see. And just a couple things I was going to rattle off. The school systems are doing well. I think most of you all have heard we were ranked 4th in the U.S. News and World Report.
For the state.
For the state. And a couple of things we garnered. We're meeting with Dr. Cleveland today and garnered from him today over $9 million in accepted scholarships this year. I think he said that was a record, and accepted. For accepted. They had like more than 40 4.0 students. It's just remarkable. As the mayor started off the comments, I mean, that degree really does, it means something. And congratulations to them all, and just very excited for the success of the schools and really the success of the community, and hearing all of those pools and all the, it's just a good time to be here. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. All right, bear with me on one quick personal story. When my father died in 2014, our family was able to form a philanthropic foundation. We named it the Phyllis Foundation in honor of my mother, who loved Homewood with a passion and loved all the years that she was here. Once a year, we have a meeting of all the members of the Phyllis Foundation, and we're working very diligently to include very little kids, because we want them to understand, the nature of to those who are given, those give a great deal. And so Ash Restaurant opened their doors for our clan yesterday afternoon, and it's just one more example of how phenomenal West Homewood is and is evolving. These servers and these folks cooking and the owner, they put in 6 hard days, but they put in a 7th for our family yesterday, and we had family from out of town, and they were just blown away. So kudos to the folks at Ash, and so appreciative of y'all know how good you have it in West Homewood, and my nephew and son and daughter and all their families know that as well, and brother, and I have a brother over there, and so it's it's all real good. I appreciate that very much. Our next meeting will be June the 10th, and with that, have a great Memorial Day, and we stand adjourned.